Doctor Who is one of those one-of-a-kind TV shows where literally anything is possible. Shop window dummies coming alive? Sure. Shadows that eat people in seconds flat? Absolutely. Recasting a character whose gender was never tied down to be only one gender? Apparently that's a bit too far. The various writers and showrunners of Who have brought a ton to the series, injecting new ideas and introducing new areas of the universe to explore. But this has resulted in things getting pretty complicated out there. So many scraps of paper and strings cross over, you could tie anything to anyone, any theory to any event. And that's basically what the huge fanbase of Who have done. From X really being Y, and ideas that change the entire fabric of the Whoniverse as we know it, grab your nearest sonic screwdriver and for goodness sake take off that fez, you looking idiot. I'm Rich, your go-to for Doctor Who from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 Doctor Who fan theories that'll blow your mind. Number 10. Nardole is Dorium Maldavar. Matt Lucas's Nardole was a character I expected to get very annoying very quickly, but this George Dawes what are the scores alien cyborg hybrid thing actually turned out to be quite the memorable companion and a true ally to Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor. Now, we don't know a huge amount about Nardole, nor do we learn much about him during our time with him, only that once he swapped his old face for his current one, and that he used to be blue. Speaking of blue, bald and overweight, how about Dorium Maldavar, a black market dealer we first met in 2010's The Pandorica Opens. This jolly old bastard ended up losing his head to the Headless Monks and ended up in a box yada yada yada. So what about his old blue body? Well, maybe the Nardole we know now plonked his Matt Lucas head on his Dorium body and obviously took a bath to make himself not blue. As to how boxed head Dorium continued to live and why Nardole didn't disclose he was in fact the OG Dorium, we'll never know. Probably due to some timey-wimey stuff. We're not entirely sure whether Dorium himself is the same thing as Nardole and can be hot swapped like he's made out of Lego, but Nardole's comments about heads and being blue might just connect the two. It would be interesting as to why he did seek out the Doctor again. Number 9. The sonic screwdriver is inconsistent because it's overloaded. The Doctor does not carry weapons. They've normally got a coat full of various knickknacks, but since its introduction in 1968, the Doctor has never been too far from their sonic screwdriver, or, as many people like to call it, the sonic plot device, since it's useful for both opening doors and literally anything the script demands to get the Doctor and co. out of a scrape. Anywho, if you take the sometimes pretty lazy writing out of the equation when it comes to reasoning about as to why the Sonic can do so much, an in-universe theory might explain why a screwdriver can be a multi-tool. Reddit user Bonglish Chap believed that the Doctor has tinkered with the screwdriver so much, lobbing functions on and redesigning it over and over again, it simply can't handle everything the Doctor expects of it. That explains why it can still do so many things, only as and when it wants to. Kinda sounds like Jules doing videos for every one of our channels. I genuinely don't know how he does it. Number 8. The first Doctor isn't actually the first. Now, this theory comes from the show itself, not necessarily the fans, but it's an interesting one, at least. Since 2005, the lore of Doctor Who has been a little more nailed down. That's unless Moff has anything to do with it. As far as we know, Doctors 1 through 13, or 15 if you're including the War and Meta-Crisis Doctor, which canonically you should, they are the only incarnations of the Doctor. However, back in 1976, during the events of the Brain of Morbius, the Doctor challenges the titular monster to a mind-bending contest, during which the faces of only the 4 Doctors at the time are seen, along with 8 completely unknown ones. Producer Philip Hinchcliffe confirmed that he did intend to imply that William Hartnell wasn't the first Doctor, but later that year, the concept of Time Lords having only 12 regenerations reared its head, and all the way up to the events of the time of the Doctor back in whatever year that was, it was solidified that between Hartnell and Smith, including War and Meta-Crisis Doctors, that was the first run of 12. The Time Lords then granted them another set of 12, which led to Capaldi and Whittaker, which almost leaves this theory redundant. However, this doesn't mean there wasn't an entire set of 12 before Hartnell. Maybe the Doctor, with their usually reckless ways, did something prior to what began in 1963 and had their memory wiped and regenerations restarted, restored to factory settings, you might say. Number 7. The creature in Listen is a silent. Back in Series 8 Listen, the Doctor was acting rather strangely, even more so than usual. He's come to the conclusion that a mysterious race of creatures must exist, a species so well evolved to do one thing: hide. If a species like this really existed, how would we know that it did exist? If it were perfect at hiding, we'd never see it. There could be one in the room with you right now. There could be one in the studio. The initial fear within the Doctor that spurred this search for a supposed perfectly hidden creature turned out to just be Clara under his bed as a child, because of course, it was bloody Clara. But what if this creature the Doctor was concerned about, searching for, was real. It would make sense since we see something behind Clara and Danny halfway through the episode, but what if this was something we've seen before? Another Moffat creation. A Silent. We know they can hide in plain sight by automatic memory wiping, so it kind of fits the bill. Number 6. Doctor Who exists inside the Doctor Who universe. Doctor Who is a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. We know this already. It's a show with infinite possibilities, even so far to fold in on itself and have the TV show we know and love exist within its own universe. Now it sounds ridiculous, but hear Reddit user Omegan Smiles out. What if with its telepathic capabilities, the TARDIS recorded every single adventure the Doctor and co has been on, utilizing the mind-prodding translation the companions come to expect from their galactic gallivants. Utilizing the mind-prodding translation the companions have come to expect from their galactic gallivants and basically being the John Watson of Doctor Who. What if everything was recorded within the TARDIS's databanks? Then when the Doctor is dead and buried on Trenzalore, supposedly, unless that's retcons somewhere down the line, someone came across these recordings and made a digestible TV series out of it, of all things. Now, it does sound absolutely ridiculous, yes, but we've actually been pretty close to the show itself, confirming the show does indeed exist within itself. The undisputed best story of all time, no, I will not stop saying it, 1988's Remembrance of the Daleks, features a television set slowly waking up. Once Ace has left the room, the announcer reads, "This is BBC Television. The time is 5:15, and Saturday viewing continues with a new adventure in the new science fiction series, and then the scene changes. Spooky. Number 5. So many aliens look like humans because it's an evolutionary advantage. No, it's not at all down to production costs and the ease of giving fictional creatures life through the use of human actors. Shut up. There is something oddly charming about the fact that most aliens the Doctor comes across are just actors painted green or something. But aside from the obvious limited time and budget, there might be an in-universe explanation as to why this is the case. There has been the fact that humans look Time Lord with the identical arm, leg, and eye placement, but other species are heading in that direction too. But why? Why look more Time Lord? Reddit user Shot from Gun suggests that the more a race look humanoid, the bigger chance the Doctor would buckle and attempt to save them from whatever dire situation they're in. The Doctor's constant saving is known across the universe, so why not evolve into such a form to make the chance of the Doctor saving your ass much bigger? Makes sense? Kind of. Bit flimsy, but it'll do. Number 4. River Song blew up the TARDIS. In the 2010 episode Cold Blood, we learned that the TARDIS would one day explode and cause the cracks in time that were littered throughout the series' main story arc. Only a few episodes later, we see the Doctor imprisoned, the TARDIS goes boom, and the universe slowly goes out. It wasn't clearly outlined as to what made the TARDIS explode. The narrative we know points to the Silence doing the deed, but there's enough wiggle room there to slide a cheeky fan theory in. River is of course on board the TARDIS when it goes kaboom. River was raised by the Silence to kill the Doctor. So what if subliminally she was doing the Silence's dastardly deeds for them? She was convinced she was flying the TARDIS away to safety, when in fact she was flying and detonating the TARDIS in a specific point to cause the entire universe to collapse. The Silence's ultimate goal was to stop the Doctor reaching Trenzalore and destroying the TARDIS and subsequently the entire universe outright would definitely make things harder for him. Number 3. There's a Silent aboard the TARDIS. This theory complements and supports the previous one, but it's also good to take a look at it in its own right, since it could change how you look at everything. In case you've been living under a Gallifrey-sized rock, you'll know who the Silents are. I've already mentioned them like twice already. If not, they are hidden creatures. You can see them and look at them, but once you look away, you've forgotten they've even existed. This means there could be Silents littered throughout the Whoniverse, manipulating things unseen but kind of in plain sight. So what if there was one on board the TARDIS at some point? The most likely point this happened was in Series 5. During the events of the Lodger, Amy is left on board the TARDIS all alone, but glances into the distance numerous times before continuing on like nothing had happened. She hadn't seen anything. At a point around 20 minutes into the Lodger, she looks away and audibly gasps, and then just continues on as normal. That sounds like a Silent. How long has it been stationed there? Was it there during the events of the Pandorica Opens? Was it there to ensure the destruction of the TARDIS and the universe? Don't forget, if you see a Silent and it gives you an order, you forget the Silence, but you remember the order. Look at how Day of the Moon ended. You should kill us all on sight. Look how that turned out. How much of the Doctor and co.'s gallivanting has been influenced by this lone Silent, pulling hidden strings from right under their noses? Who knows? Number 2. Captain Jack was beheaded by the Headless Monks. Captain Jack Harkness is one of the best characters New Who introduced, and it's sad to think we haven't seen him substantially since 2008's Journey's End. However, when Jack said his farewells to the Doctor and Martha Jones, he dropped a pretty big bombshell. The face of Bo, they called me. So, the big head in the jar we first met in 2005's The End of the World and the numerous times thereafter was Captain Jack all along. Interesting to think he went all cryptic. I'd have thought Jack would have his face like smushed up against the glass when the Doctor eventually turned up again. Anyway, how did he become a big old head? We know he's immortal thanks to Rose reviving him a little too well in The Parting of the Ways, but how did he get from American Heartthrob to giant head thing? Is that a natural progression of aging over millions of years, or is there something more specific we can look to? Well, there is. John Barrowman was originally slated to appear in A Good Man Goes to War, which featured the Headless Monks and their electric swords. Supposedly, Jack would have lost his head here and became the face of Bo. Simple. Stephen Moffat did introduce the character himself in The Empty Child back in 2005, so it would have made a lot of sense for him to flesh out the character himself. However, John Barrowman couldn't make the recording due to scheduling conflicts, so it's not really a fan theory actually. This again could have happened. Personally, I wouldn't really want to know exactly how he went from Jack to Bo. I kind of like that mystery there. You have to let me know what you think. And number 1, the Weeping Angels are Time Lords. One of the best baddies in Doctor Who history, at least in the only appearance that actually mattered, Blink. They didn't need any more appearances after that, Moffat, don't at me. These creepy things freeze into rock when they're seen and can move crazy fast when they're not statues. If they get you, they zap you back in time and feed off the residual energy, yada, yada, yada. You know this. Anyway, the Doctor mentions that these things are as old as the universe itself, and no one knows where they came from. This has led to a theory that these things are in fact Time Lords. Surely then the Doctor would know this tidbit. Maybe they do and they just keep it a secret, as the Doctor does. Either that or the event that turns the Time Lords into angels hasn't happened yet, and it's still way in the future for the species. So why has this theory been made? It seems pretty threadbare. Well, the obvious thing that ties them together is time. Also, the angels are able to manipulate time itself with the whole sending victims back thing, and surely that didn't just come from nowhere. Maybe the Time Lords tinkering with time is what led them to become angels. Maybe angels are feral Time Lords and their only instinct is to hunt for time which they can feed and subsequently survive on. Even Lord and Angel sound pretty heavenly and mythical, further implying that these two sides could be of the same coin. Kind of. Hell, in The End of Time Part 2, a pair of Time Lords can be seen striking the infamous Angels pose. Admittedly, I don't want to know where the angels came from. Their mystery is a contributing factor into what makes them scary. The less we see of them, the better. And I mean that literally. Did we really need the Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, the Angels Take Manhattan, and every other minor appearance since? No. We didn't. And that's my list. Any more outlandish theories you've conjured up about the Whoniverse? Let me know in the comments section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to What Culture here on YouTube if you haven't already, and you can follow me on Twitter @PickupChangeToe. I've been Rich, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!